Today I'm going to go through the Plugshare app, both mobile and desktop, as well as cover the trip planner and how you can use it on your smartphone. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for being here. I've mentioned the Plugshare app before and I've recommended it to people, both current EV drivers as well as people looking to get into their first electric vehicle. I personally think it is one of the best apps out there for public charging stations because it shows more charging stations on a variety of networks and not just one network. I find the Plugshare app a lot more comprehensive. It's for this reason that I recommend anybody who's looking at buying their first electric vehicle, download the app, open it up and zoom in on your area. You'll be amazed and probably surprised at how many public charging stations are available in your immediate area. So today I'm going to walk through both the desktop version and the mobile version because they do look slightly different. And in particular, on the desktop version only, you get access to a trip planner, which is really cool for people that have limited range or are planning long road trips. I will show you exactly how you can actually plan your trip on the desktop and then use the mapping and the waypoints on your mobile phone. If you're not new to Plugshare and you're only here because you want to see how you can use the trip planner on your mobile device, I'll put a time code right here that you can fast forward to and go directly to that part in the video. So let's start. I'm going to start with the desktop app because that's what I have logged in here. So I'm going to turn to my computer here and I'm going to show you exactly how I set up my Plugshare for optimal use for me. And then you can play with the app and see what works for you the best. So to access the desktop version, just open up your web browser and type in plugshare.com. It's important to note you actually don't need to register for an account. However, by doing so, you get a few extra features and I'll go through those. In particular, you cannot use the trip planner and you cannot log into stations and leave notes if you do not have an account. So the first thing I would actually do when you set up your account is I would actually just go in and manage your vehicles and then add the vehicle that you have. So I added my Nissan Leaf and I have a Nissan Leaf SL, so I do have quick charging abilities. I'm gonna add in a Chevy because I noticed this earlier. So if you type in Chevy and a Bolt EV, regardless of what trim, because I can't actually pick the trim on this, I can pick the color, but regardless of the trim, it tells me that there's a Type 2 and a CCS combo fast charger plug. Now I know for a fact that not every trim level of a Bolt has the CCS plug. So if you're unsure, make sure before you register that in. Now, you can still add the vehicle and it will log in here, but you're gonna wanna turn off this CCS plug if your vehicle does not have that. So I would just confirm that the compatible plugs that are showing up are the ones that your car actually has. So the first thing you can do is you can open up the legend so you figure out exactly what each pin means. The green ones are your public ones and the orange ones are your high power or also known as your level 3 charging stations. If you don't understand the difference between level 1, 2, and 3 charging, I'll put a link to a video that I did previously that'll go over all of that. Just covering all the bases here. We got the legend, we got some filters that we can set up and I'm gonna go over the filters in depth a little bit more. You can add a station. So if you don't see a station on here, but you know it exists, you can help out the EV community and add it in here and it'll drop a pin on the map. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start filtering out these stations so that I actually get less stations on the map, but they're more likely to work for my particular interest. Now you can filter by a lot of different settings. However, some of them I would say are in beta mode because they don't work 100% the way that they're expected to. So the first thing I do, the plugs. So I set this up to show all the different available stations, including ones with plugs that don't work for me. I don't drive a Tesla, so none of these Teslas would work. If I just reset to the plugs that my vehicle has, I get the CHAdeMO and I get the standard J1772. The minimum power, I don't really care personally. If I'm looking for a charge, it's because I'm in need. Yes, I would like it to be as fast as possible. However, any of the public charging stations that are fast chargers are going to be just fine for my vehicle because it is a little bit older and doesn't have that new charging availability up to that 100 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt plus charging rates. So I don't filter by network, even though in my area, there's only about 3 or 4 networks that actually exist right now. However, I leave it unfiltered because new stations are popping up every day and I don't want to miss one that might be under a different network, but more convenient to me just because I filtered it out. So I leave all the networks on. Here's one of the areas that I would say is somewhat in beta mode, because the payment required locations in particular does not work 100%, and I will show you exactly what I mean. You'll notice there's a cluster up here and there's a couple down here with the payment required. Now, if I turn that off, you'll notice that that cluster got a little bit smaller and the ones down here didn't show up at all. The reason being is that it thinks that those ones are pay stations. However, if I turn on payment required and I look at, say, Sun God Recreational Center, I click on that and it'll say that payment is required, but the session cost is $0, meaning it actually doesn't cost anything. That's one of those things where if that filter was a little bit more polished, it would know that a $0 charge is the same as free, and it would show it whether that filter was put on or not. So that's one example. So I leave the payment on so that I don't miss stations like that, because you can always click, you can get the details of the station, and you can determine whether or not you want to go. There are definitely ones that have payments required. This one says a payment's required, and it will give you the details down here. Beginning January 18th, there's a fee of $1 an hour for charging. Not bad, still reasonable, still cheaper than gas. That's about it. I don't do any of the other extras. Now, there are ones where if I'm just in a rush, I only want to see the fast chargers. That's where you can turn these plugs on and off, and you can see exactly what's going to work for you. That turned off most of the chargers, but if you're looking for a fast charge because you're in a rush, that's more important. You can turn that off. So I will say that apps are constantly in development and new features are coming out all the time. So if you do happen to find this video in the future, check the links in the description below and at the end of this video for possible updates to what I've already just covered. So I'm gonna run through the trip planner here and show you a couple of the features in particular that I like about it. Because I've added in the fact that I have a Nissan Leaf, that is also gonna help me with my trip planner. I'm gonna go into the trip planner and plan a trip from Vancouver to Calgary. Now, the first thing you can see is a green circle, and you can see a whole bunch of charging stations. So this is every charging station along that route within a particular radius. If you want to go off the highway a little bit more, you can up that radius right here. So let's say you want to go 3, it's going to add a couple charging stations on the highway. Now let's say you want to go 10, that's giving you a different amount of charging stations. It doesn't look that different all zoomed out, but I can assure you that as you zoom in, there's going to be more and more available. In particular right here, you see this is off the highway, but if I dial this back down to 1.6, a couple of them disappear. This green circle is your estimated range of your vehicle. I find the cold impacts it, I find the usage of the heater impacts it. Depending on when you're gonna do your road trip, you can adjust your range accordingly. Right now, because I have a Nissan Leaf, the Plugshare app is telling me that it expects to get a maximum range of 114 kilometers. I personally don't think that's doable on the highway, and I wouldn't want to show up to a charging station totally out of juice, so I would dial that back. I might even give it a safe buffer and go say to 90. Let's say I'm starting on this purple dot because that's where it says I am right now. The green circle says I can only get as far as these charging stations here, and then I'm going to want to fill up. So there's quite a few there. So you could aim for one of these and you could click on, let's say that one, and add that to the trip. Once you have added that one to the trip, first of all, that white box will stay there. But now you see the green box, or the green diameter, has extended and says you can get this far. Now that's right on the edge. I may not want to aim for that one, but maybe I do because I've given a little bit of a buffer. So let's just say, for argument's sake, I want to add this one. I can click that and add to trip again. Now the green diameter, the radius, shows you exactly where you can get again. And then you keep doing that for the entire trip. So these are all the stops, and it'll give you the estimated drive time in between each one. It's gonna give you the ability to add an estimated wait time. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of your trip, it will tell you the total distance and driving time. That is your driving time, 10 hours and 45 minutes. But if you include the time with waiting, it's 11 hours and 45 minutes. So it's actually not waiting, it is charging time. They should reword that in my opinion. So let's say you had to charge for 30 minutes and you waited for 30 minutes. I would just add an hour to each of these. As I've added them, now the total time with charging goes up to 15 hours or almost 16 hours. If you did it all the way through, I've got 3-4 more stops, it would probably end up closer to 20 hours. So it does add a fair bit of time on my particular car because I have such a low range with just the 24 kilowatt hour battery. Personally, would not do this road trip in this car just because I wouldn't want to double the amount of time it took to get to somewhere. But you could see how this is useful, and if you had a newer vehicle with a longer range, you wouldn't have to stop as much and you could plan this out. The other really important thing, and the thing I love about the Trip Planner app the most, is that you can check the elevation of your drive, because we all know that driving uphill, you're gonna get less mileage out of your charge, and going downhill, you will get more. This one here, I would be very cautious about reaching this charger if it was at the max limit of that green radius that it was shown on the previous map. I'd be less concerned about getting to this one, and I may not even need to get to this one because I'm downhill. I might be able to skip number 5 and drive all the way to number 6 if that elevation decline got me enough charge on the regenerative braking or the regenerative charging in order to get me further. So you can have a look at this. You may have to add in more charging stops or fewer depending on the elevation that you are driving. So like I said at the beginning, you do need the desktop app in order to do the trip planner. It's not available on the mobile app, which is a little bit of a failure on the app's part. However, I would say that the Plugshare app does display better on a desktop, and for trip planning purposes, it's gonna be a bit more beneficial to have the big screen so you can see the radius, you can check the elevation, and you can check where all the different charging stations are on your route. Now, that said, when you're driving, you are probably using the GPS on your phone in order to follow directions. At least that's how I operate. So I'm gonna show you how you can plan your trip on the desktop and use the waypoints and the route that you've planned on your mobile app as you go. So I have my route planned to Calgary, Vancouver to Calgary, and all my waypoints are here. Those are my stops. I've got in all my settings. It is what it is. Now we're ready to rock and roll. Once you have your trip planned here, you scroll down here to click view directions. And the only thing you have to do here is you say send directions to your phone. It's gonna come up with a bunch of different options. I just email it to myself. It comes up with a link. I'll show you that on my mobile device here. And as you can see, I click on this link, the map is available. It tells me the time estimated to the next or the first waypoint. And it does that for the entire duration of the trip. So the mobile app doesn't look a ton different from the desktop app. It's really just a little bit more condensed, and it's got a lot of the same features as the desktop app. It just does not have the trip planner. So I'll just run through a couple of them right here. I'll just still got the pinpoints on the map. The menu is a little bit smaller. It's just in this corner here, and then it takes up more of the screen as you're looking at it. However, the filters are in a slightly different place. So the filters are in the top right corner right here. And as you can see, they don't look like tile graphics the same way they do on the desktop. They're more just toggle switches. So, and it will take the settings from your desktop app if you registered for an account. That's another benefit for actually logging in and having an account. It actually saves those settings for you, both desktop and mobile. And then connectors. So you can see that I've got my Nissan Leaf at the top. If I wanted to change vehicle, my Bolt is in there from adding it previously. The NEMA 1450 may be useful for me in the future because the level 2 charger that I installed in my garage is somewhat portable and has a 1450 plug on it. So if I was road tripping, I might want to turn that on and see if there was maybe an RV park or a service station that maybe had one of those plugs available to me that wasn't going to be in use 99% of the time. So this little button in the bottom right hand corner is searching along a route. It's not the same as the trip planner. However, if you're out and about and you're driving for a little bit during the day, you may find this useful. So let's say I'm gonna punch in Calgary again just so we can see exactly, but it won't give you the ability to add waypoints, but you can search for the charging stations along a particular route. That in a nutshell is the Plugshare app. If you enjoyed the video or at the very least learned something, let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to hit the like button. If you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks again for watching, and have yourself a great day.